Well, it is indeed my great pleasure to be here with all of you. From the class of 1990, as was mentioned, and so if you're good at math, you understand that I'm now of a particular age, and that age is 50. So I'm now 50. In fact, I just turned 50 on Friday, and I was thinking that you have this monumental birthday, and then all of a sudden things get better. You wake up one day and you're wise, and people start to respect you and listen to you. But I'll be honest with you, it hasn't gone perfectly. Friday morning, in fact, my very first act as a 50-year-old was this. My alarm was to go off at 7:30. I'm a college chaplain, for God's sake. I sleep in, and so 7:30, the alarm was going to go off, but at 6:52, my phone's ringing. And I lean over, I recognize the caller, so I pick it up, and the caller says, "Father Gale, happy birthday. So very proud of you." A little bit of a pause. He thought, he said, I didn't wake you up, did I? And without hesitation, without even hesitating 1 ounce, I said, "Oh, no. I've been up. I've been kind of just getting ready for the day, Bishop Vinky." The first thing I did as a 50-year-old was lie to my bishop. Let's hope things improve. Listen, I'm here today not because I'm some form of a distinguished alum. I did hear that Bishop Vinky called me the most famous Thomas More Prep alum ever. If that's the case, we're in real trouble. We're in real trouble. I'm here because I was invited, I know, to speak, seniors, to you a little bit about what you have coming up in these next few years. Indeed, I am a college chaplain at St. Isidore's, Kansas State University. I think it's kind of special that the bishop has both myself and Father Hammerschmidt serving as college chaplains within our diocese, two Thomas More Prep men who kind of were able to figure it out. I was on a podcast earlier, and I described Hays, Kansas, where men are men and women are glad of it. I don't know what that means, but it seems right. It just seems right. I'm here because of the reality that I know a little bit about what you're going to experience in these years to come. That's why I received the invitation. That's why I received the invitation. And so what I want to do is just give you maybe a little bit of a window into my life, a little bit of a window into the life of those who I spend most of my time with, college students. And we're going to rewind maybe 10, 11 days to May 11th into May 12th. It's a 30-hour period that I want to recap here. It started around 4 o'clock on that Wednesday. I was invited to a darty. You know what that is? You guys are aware of this? It's something that kids do. Like, they take two words and they put them together and make one word out of it. So it stands for darty, or it stands for a day party. Day party becomes darty. It's a thing that the kids do. So I put on my grout fit, I grabbed some brunch, and I headed to the darty. After the darty, I was invited to yet another party and a third party before the night was up. So within a period of about 10 hours, from 4 o'clock until 2 a.m., I'd gone to 3 parties, and then I'd also taken a couple hours out of the evening to serve 500 meals to those who were in need outside of St. Isidore's in a parking lot. Every Wednesday, we serve 500 meals. It was an incredible day. It was an incredible evening. It was a lot of fun. Each of those parties, interestingly enough, the first one was the darty. The second one was an engagement party. A young couple had gotten engaged that afternoon. A lot of times, you know, they would get engaged on weekends or Fridays or something. The engagement was supposed to go down on a Friday, but they moved it to a Wednesday because she found out about the engagement. And so 48 hours early, he dropped to a knee, pulled out the ring, and got engaged. She was surprised, and his friends threw a party. It was a great party. And then later that night, there was a party, a speakeasy. It was a room renovated to look like a bar, a speakeasy, and I went at all 3 of those parties. Interestingly enough, all 3 of the parties, there was alcohol. It's not like a big deal. There's alcohol there. And yet there's virtue. In fact, the second party, the engagement party, they refer to it as a virtuous kegger. Father, we're going to have a virtuous kegger. And they did. Those who were 21 were drinking if they wanted to. If they didn't, they weren't. And those who weren't 21 simply were not drinking at these individual parties. And there was great joy. It was great fun. We were celebrating incredible people, celebrating the end of a school year. But it was the speakeasy at the end of the night that struck me more than the rest. Some deep conversations taking place. There was a young man leading the conversations. His name was Kelvin. Kelvin is the team director for our Focus team, Fellowship of Catholic University students. And he would ask just wild, random questions. He would look at one of the students and said, okay, here's the scenario. You're on a runaway train. You know it's going to crash, and you're kaput. You got 3 phone calls. You've got to call one person to say, I forgive you. Another person to say, will you forgive me? And a third person to say, I love you. Who do you call? What does that look like? And it was intriguing to me to sit there with maybe 20 college students and listen to them have real conversations about real things, deep conversations. And as the night continued, a young man from around here, his name's Carson, he actually was asked the question, well, what are you going to be most appreciative of for this gentleman, Kelvin, the team director from Focus? What are you going to remember about Kelvin? Because Kelvin's leaving K-State. He's going to take over the job at Georgia. He's going to be the team director at Georgia. What are you going to remember most about Kelvin? And here's what Carson said. He said, this is a man, Kelvin's a man who taught me how to become a man of God, how to ask the tough questions, how to grapple with the doubts I have. A guy that taught me that faith isn't always easy, but it's worth attempting. He was a man who shows me what it means to be a man of God. And then he paused and he laughed and he said, and he's also a 12-year-old most of the time. He's childlike. And that's important. Those things go together is what he was pointing out. Those things go together. I made it home that night by around 2. I woke up early the next morning. I was able to say some prayers, have some individual meetings with important people in my life, a young lady whose father had died in the fall, just talking to her about her heartbreak, trying to be a good father for her who had lost her father. I had a great lunch that day, and then I went out to a lake in the middle of the afternoon, went out to a lake, a 7-acre lake that exists on the outskirts of Manhattan, kind of a private lake that's owned by Friends of St. Isidore's. And me and about 150 of my best college friends just went out to this lake, and we acted like we were 12 years old. There were inner tubes there. People were trying to push each other off the inner tubes. They were trying to stand on the inner tubes. There was a diving board, doing all of the tricks off the diving board. And by the way, I dominated it. I did. I'm 50, and I still dominated the diving board. Top 3. I was one of the top 3 divers, no doubt. I still got it. All you my classmates up there, I know I got some classmates up there. I still got it. I never had it, did I? I never did. You know that to be true. But we had a great time. And then later that night, I was able to hear confessions and celebrate Mass. And in my homily that Mass that night, at 9 o'clock, what I said was this. I said, these last 30 hours that I've experienced have been insanely good. So wonderful, so beautiful, so joyful. And I just said, I don't believe that the rest of the people out on campus are having as much fun as we are. The crew that I hang with at St. Isidore's. We pray, we play, and we serve. And it was after Mass that one of my favorite monarchs, my favorite frat boy, Grant Ginther, came up to me, and Grant said, Father, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think of everybody else out on campus. I think of everybody else that I go to school with. I think of my friends. I think of so many people. And they're striving to have fun. They're striving to live a life of contentment, but they're not. They're continually searching for something more, something that we have that I know that they desire, but they don't know that they desire it. And as Grant and I continue talking, we're just rambling on of the same topic, pointing out that so many people in the world today, especially college students, are chasing after what? They're chasing after power, possessions, pleasure, prestige. Those 3 Those four. And they think that's where they're going to find the joy that they're looking for, the contentment in life, power. If maybe we get together and we can feel powerful by gossiping about others or by being cruel to others, then I feel better and more powerful. It's not going to get you where you want to be. Prestige, it's fine to win prestigious awards, but they're not the end-all and be-all. They won't bring you the satisfaction that you think. Possessions, obviously we know that the most important things in life are not things. And then obviously as well, which one am I missing? Pleasure. We can chase after pleasure all day long, but in the end, it's just going to leave us empty. So there has to be something more. There has to be something more. And that something more is simply a life lived for others and for God. Be willing to pray, be willing to play, and be willing to serve. And if you can do that, you will get to receive the life that you're looking for, at least the best life that can be lived here on earth. And I know that you don't have to believe me here. And it's really, it's okay, right? I can say these things, you listen or you don't. But it's your happiness that's at stake. It is. I'm a guy that hears confession after confession after confession of college students. And what do they say? They say, Father, I was trying to do it the way the world told me to do it. Chasing after those four. And I'm miserable. Please don't tell anybody else about this, but I'm miserable. I see everybody else out there, and they're killing it. They're doing the same things I'm doing, and they're loving life, but at the heart of it, I'm miserable, Father. Please don't tell my friends. And then the next confession is one of their friends who says the same thing. A life lived for Christ is the best life that one can live here on earth. That's my promise to you. You don't have to believe me, but it is true, whether you believe me or not. And it's a great joy to see it when people do understand. I'm going to leave you with these three pieces of advice. First is attributed to Mark Twain, but I've read a lot of stuff that says this isn't Mark Twain's quote, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. It says, don't let your studies get in the way of your education. Parents hate it when I say that stuff. I know the college is expensive, and many of you are going to go off and spend a lot of money at college, but don't let your studies get in the way of your education. There's so much more to learn than just that which you are opening up and reading in books. Second thing is attributed to a man that I do not know, Jim Rohn. I don't know who he is, Jim Rohn with an N. But I love this quote as well. It says that you become, students, you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So choose wisely. Are you going to be surrounding yourself with people who are building you up? Or are you going to be surrounding yourself with people who are tearing you down and others as well? Are you going to be surrounding yourself with people who are running toward God or away from God? That's who you will become. And then the final thing is simply this: be courageous. At St. Isidore's, we've tried to create an atmosphere where everybody feels absolutely welcome. We got football players that'll hang out there, and we got the dweeby kids that can hang out there as well. All right, I don't know if that's fair to say that, but I am one of the dweeby kids. Maybe not a kid anymore, but dweeby indeed. We're trying to create an atmosphere where everybody feels 100% welcome. But yet you still have to be courageous to walk through the doors. And then you have to be courageous to walk through the doors yet again. And then yet again. And by about the 4th or 5th time, I can promise you, you're just going to start to feel a little bit more at home in this scenario. So be courageous. Be courageous. My Aunt Suzanne Lycum, one of my final relatives that still lives in Hayes. Most of our relatives have moved out, but she's still here. She's my mother's sister. She told me this. She said, Gale, she didn't call me father. She says, Gale, whenever you speak to us, whenever you speak, 3 things. Make us laugh, make us think, and for God's sake, don't keep us there all day. I've heard some laughter. Hopefully, there's been some thinking. But I guess for you, Aunt Suzanne,